Midnight, June 3, 1781. Jack Jouett, 26 years old, a captain of Virginia militia, sat on the porch of the Cuckoo Tavern in Louisa County, half asleep in the summer heat. 40 miles to the west, on a mountain outside Charlottesville, the governor of Virginia slept in his own house. Almost no one stood guard. His name was Thomas Jefferson, and barreling up the road toward Jouett in the dark rode 250 of the finest cavalry in the British Army. Their commander was Banastre Tarleton, a name that made militia scatter on its own. Fast, ruthless, already infamous across the Carolinas for raids that ended before anyone understood they had started. Just over a year earlier, his cavalry had cut apart a surrendering Continental force so badly that his own name had become shorthand for showing no mercy at all. Cornwallis had given him one job: ride through the night, hit Charlottesville by surprise, capture the governor of Virginia, along with the entire legislature meeting in that same town. Jefferson had no army around him, no real guard, just a handful of lawmakers scattered through a town that had never expected to be a target. Tarleton expected total, silent success. One strike that could end Virginia's resistance in a single morning. By sunrise, Thomas Jefferson would escape with, depending on which account you believe, as little as 10 minutes to spare. This is how one man, on one horse, beat an army to the top of a mountain. Virginia was already reeling that spring. Benedict Arnold, once an American general, now fighting for the crown, had raided Richmond months earlier and burned what he pleased. The state government had already fled west to Charlottesville rather than risk the capital again. Now Cornwallis's main army was pushing north through Virginia itself, and Tarleton's raid was meant to finish what Arnold had started. If the legislature fell that night, Virginia would have no government left at all. 250 cavalry, moving fast on a warm road, against a governor with no bodyguard and lawmakers scattered across a handful of houses. On paper, it wasn't close. That's the kind of number that should make the outcome obvious before the story even starts. Keep it in mind, because it's about to stop mattering entirely. Jack Jouett had grown up in these hills. His father ran the very tavern he was sitting on, and Jouett knew every trail, ford, and back road between Louisa County and Charlottesville better than any map the British carried. That knowledge was about to matter more than anything else in the war. He watched the column pass in the moonlight. Green coats, not red, the mark of Tarleton's legion, and understood immediately what it meant. No one else on that road had the standing or the nerve to do what came next. He didn't wait for orders. There was no one left to give them. Jouett swung onto his horse and turned away from the main road, the one the British were already using. He would take the trails instead, steeper, rougher, nearly invisible in the dark. It should have taken all night just to reach Charlottesville the safe way. Jouett meant to beat 250 cavalrymen there anyway. On the road behind him rode a very different kind of soldier. Banastre Tarleton was 26 years old himself. Young, brutal, and utterly convinced that speed solved every problem war could offer. He had built his entire reputation on raids exactly like this one. Fast, merciless, over, before the enemy realized it had begun. In his mind, capturing the governor of Virginia by breakfast was simply another Tuesday. He had no reason to think that a militia captain, alone on a farm road, could possibly beat him there. He was wrong about that from the moment Jouett saw his column pass. Jouett's route ran through some of the wildest country in Louisa and Albemarle counties. Deer trails, fence lines, riverbanks with no bridge, forest so thick the moonlight barely touched the ground. He rode through briars that tore his face open, through creek crossings that could have broken his horse's leg in the dark, past farms where a single misstep could send a loyalist neighbor riding ahead to warn Tarleton he was coming. He did not stop. Picture the two routes from above, side by side in the dark. One is a wide, graded road running straight and flat toward Charlottesville. Easy riding, easy pace. The other is a scatter of deer trails and farm lanes bending south around it, adding miles adding risk, crossing water twice with no bridge in sight. Any rational rider takes the first road. Jouett took the second on purpose because he understood something Tarleton didn't, that the shortest path and the fastest path were not the same thing that night. Somewhere behind him, on the wider, easier road, Tarleton's dragoons were making good time too, but they stopped. Once, to raid a supply depot at Louisa Courthouse. Once more, to rest their horses at a plantation along the way. Every minute they spent resting, Jouett spent riding. By the time false dawn broke over the mountains, Jouett had covered nearly 40 miles of the hardest riding country in Virginia. His face was scratched and bleeding from the branches. His horse was nearly spent. Ahead of him, finally, rose the silhouette of a mountain with a single house on top of it. Monticello. If you're new here, this is Bastion history. Stories like this one, the ones that never made it into the textbooks. Stay with me, because Jefferson's morning was about to get a lot shorter than he expected. Jouett reached Monticello around dawn on June 4th. Thomas Jefferson was already awake, unhurried, going over correspondence before breakfast. When Jouett told him British cavalry were closing fast, aimed straight at his house, Jefferson reportedly took the news with almost unnerving calm. He finished breakfast. He gathered his most important papers, sorting the essential from the disposable in a house he might never see again. He sent his family off toward a neighboring estate for safety. Downstairs, servants and enslaved workers on the property scattered to warn the rest of the household and hide what valuables they could. Only after all of that did Jefferson finally saddle his own horse and start up the ridge behind Monticello. Pausing at the top for one last look down, to be certain everything below was truly clear. That pause very nearly killed him. Because while Jefferson calmly finished his morning, a detachment of Tarleton's dragoons under Captain Kenneth McLeod had already broken off from the main column and were riding hard, straight up the mountain road toward the house. They reached the base of Monticello, just as Jefferson reached the top of the ridge above it. According to multiple accounts passed down from that morning, the gap between them was measured in minutes, some say as few as 10. The dragoons swept through the house. Jefferson was gone. Down in Charlottesville itself, Tarleton's main force had far more luck, sweeping into town and capturing 7 members of the Virginia legislature before they could scatter. But the man they had actually been sent to capture, the governor himself, was already gone, riding hard over the far side of the mountain because of a militia captain who had never been given an order to do any of it. 7 lawmakers sat in British custody by that afternoon. The government of Virginia had come within one ridge, and perhaps 10 minutes, of losing its governor entirely. Cornwallis's raid had, on paper, succeeded. He'd scattered the Virginia government and captured a portion of its leadership in a single stroke. But the one man whose capture could have reshaped the entire war, the man who had written the Declaration of Independence itself, rode free into the hills of Albemarle County. Word of the escape spread through Virginia within days. The legislature, humiliated but intact, regrouped further west in Staunton and kept functioning as a government in exile. Jefferson himself, badly shaken by how close the raid had come, chose not to seek re-election as governor once his term ended just weeks later. Jouett became something close to a folk hero almost overnight, in the same way Israel Putnam had a generation earlier, though almost no one outside Virginia would ever learn his name. What if Jouett had simply gone to bed that night at the Cuckoo Tavern? What if he'd decided the column wasn't worth chasing after? Tarleton's dragoons would have reached Monticello with the governor still inside it. And an already fragile American cause, just 4 months from Yorktown, though no one alive that morning could have known it, might have lost one of its central figures to a British prison, or worse. Instead, by the time the sun was fully up on June 4th, 1781, Thomas Jefferson was safely across the mountain, and a militia captain nobody had ordered into the saddle had ridden into history without ever firing a shot. Some soldiers win wars with muskets. That night, one man won it with 40 miles of the worst road in Virginia. And about 10 minutes to spare, if you want more stories like this one. The Turning Points History Almost Forgot. Subscribe to Bastion History. There are more nights like this one still waiting to be told.